power really only comes from two places. You can reduce it down to two ideas. There is either power below, or there is power above. Everything ultimately comes from these two things. The power below, what Eugene Peterson argues, this is the way of the dragon. Not like Bruce Lee dragon, like this is biblical imagery. Where is it from? Well, it says it's from the world, the flesh, the devil. James doesn't hold back any punches. It's antithetical to the way of Christ, to his kingdom, to how Jesus operates. And what do we believe this power is ultimately for? It's to become self-important. And many of you, and you would argue in this room, like obviously that sounds wrong. We shouldn't do that. But you'd be surprised how much we pull on those threads. We pull from this source of power in our day-to-day lives. When money seems to get better results than prayer. When charisma seems to win people over easier and quicker than sacrificial love. I get ahead more when I'm known for what I drive and what I own than actually who I am as a person. When you use people and you normalize in the office by chalking it up to statements like being a team player, they're taking one for the team. When I get better engagement in my sermons with self-confidence instead of spirit dependence. You, maybe in this room, you feel like your spiritual life is better left outside the door for those type of special business meetings you have. And being pulled into this way of operating, this way of thinking, this source of power happens to the best of us. Matthew 16, Jesus is sitting down with all his disciples around the campfire, and he's just spitting truth to them. He said, guys, the way I'm gonna build my kingdom is I'm going to die and arise again 3 days later. That's how power is gonna happen. And his closest disciple, who knows him best, pushes back against him. That's not how you build power. That's not how you build a kingdom. Peter is saying, look at the influence we're having. Look at the impact we're having. Look how many people are joining our cause. Our crowd is growing. We're about to hit up that city. It's a very influential city. This is how you build a kingdom. And what does Jesus say to him? Get behind me, Satan. And we stop there and we're like, okay, that's a loaded statement. We don't read much further usually in that passage, but why does he say such a loaded thing? For you are not setting your mind on things of God, but on things of man. You're guided by the wrong power, Peter. We find ourselves, we believe to get any real traction, if we're honest, we need to walk by sight, and desperately hope we have to walk by faith. And the problem is because we know it works. It's effective. This source of power. If you look at Amazon, the best-selling books, number 3, has been sitting there for a while. It's 74,000 reviews, over millions of copies sold, is the 48 Laws of Power. And this book is sold because it's effective. It works. It gets you power. Look at the laws. Law 4, conceal your intentions. Law 2, never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use your enemies. Law 15, crush your enemies totally. Law 24, take credit for others' work. Law 31, control all other options. This is what the Corinthians wanted from Paul because it works. It's effective. And if we're honest, it's what we want too. It's what we want in our leaders, in our politicians, in our pastors, in ourselves. Because there's a clear road to power, and we know it's effective. But it might work in the short term, but it always has a corrosive effect in the long term, because the way you gain power is the way you must preserve it. By using people, by always posturing yourself as successful, always talking about your accolades, must be the way you keep sustaining this level of power. And let's remember where the source comes from. Like nuclear power, there's always nuclear waste as a byproduct of it. Coal power, there's always pollution as a byproduct of it. In the same way, the power below, it pollutes our soul as well as we lead and we use power this way. It shrinks your capacity for love. It keeps people at a distance. You begin to use people. It's the exact reason why in New York City, if you saw the portals, and so when we think about keeping people at a distance, there's some effect to that. New York City had this massive portal. It was a giant LED screen. It was circular. It was about 16 feet wide. It was a live feed into Dublin, Ireland. And they had their own LED screen. So they would see this live feed back and forth. And it's this beautiful idea of like, we can see humans across the world and you can wave to them and you can high five them, all this stuff. What a cool thing to feel like the world is all connected. Day one, what happens? Some random guy from Dublin pulls out a picture of the Twin Towers being blown up and puts it up to the camera. And it blows up on the screen in New York City downtown. It's weird that some of you guys laughed at that. People can do the most hateful things when there's distance. I don't know this person. I don't know their story. I don't really care about them. They're not human. They're just a product. And when we have this way of leading, we put people at a distance to be used, and we lose our way of what it means to actually be human.